This is the first video in the series for Microsoft Office Access 2013, which is the latest version of Microsoft Office as of the year 2013. They also have Office 365, which is their paid subscription model, which is going to be the same. So in this video, I'm going to introduce you Microsoft Office Access, and we'll understand the basic ideas behind it. So when you start Access, it starts like this, and you can go through some of these templates like project management, task management, and they have a ready-made template already set for you, or you could go through some of these options here on the top and you can search for them online. But it's best to go through the blank database option. So if I want, I can just double click on it one time and it opens up this window here. Now I can save it in that folder Documents, but if I want to organize it, I can use the Folder button to browse it, and I can then create a new folder called Access if I wanted to save it. Now in this example, we'll try to create a contact list. So the simplest form of a database, which is a contact list, where we are trying to get people's first name, last name, and things like that. And simply put, database are nothing but collection of records. So when you had those diaries in the days 10-15 years ago, you were getting information from people. That's the database. And each database has different fields in it, like first name is a field, last name is a field. So we just need to create and design a table in your database so that I can start entering information. So I'm just going to double click on Access, and I already have a folder called Contacts, so I'll just call it Contacts 1 for now, and I'll click OK. Now I have to click Create. So this is unique to Access because in Word and Excel you can continue to type and it will not ask you to save. So I'm just going to click Create. Now the Access is ready. Now when you show up here, it comes up in the table form, because whenever you have a database, usually you have a table. That's the foundation, and tables usually have columns. These are columns, and then you have rows. So up here I'll put first name, last name, and then I try to fill in the names in here. But before you try to enter something in a database, it's always good to design the table. So in this left hand corner there is this symbol here. I can just click on that on the top. You could go through the drop down and then choose Design View too, but it's just easier to click on the top. So it flips. So now when it flips, it will ask me to save this table. So I'll just call it Contacts List. If you wanted to do convention, you can put TBL and then type the word contact. So TBL stands for table for short. So that way I can read it that this is table contacts. And I click OK. So now I am in what is known as the design view. And you see, if I point to this button here and I click it, it flips to the front end, which is known as the Datasheet View. And you can also click see here, Design View and Datasheet View. So I'm going to come back to Design View. Now this is where I design my table. I start typing things like first name, and I'm just using the tab key to go across, last name. So these are the fields that will show up on the top of my column heading. So I'm just going to flip over to the front end and it will ask me to save it. Everything you do in Access, it will ask you to save at the design side. Say yes to it, and you see, you can see the first name and last name, and here I can choose to type John. Now as soon as I type John, the ID turned to 1. So let's come back to Design View and understand why. This ID was set for the data type auto number. So what is a data type? A data type is something that defines what information can go in that field. So for example, if I change this last name data type, which is say short text, which is by default most field will have it. In the previous version they just used to call it text. Short text means I just want to type something small. But if I change this to by mistake to a number data type, I'm going to save it. If you want, say yes to that. I'm going to flip over. Now in here, if I try to type something, it will come up with the error message saying that, hey, what you're trying to type, you cannot enter this because your data type does not allow it. So I'm just going to delete that and I'm going to come to the front end. So that's why you want your data type to be something text in a field where you're going to accept text. If I wanted to write like an apartment number or street number or something, then I could choose number. So I just need to choose short text. So in Access in 2013, short text means you can type words and numbers. That's just the way it works in Access. When you see the word text in the previous version also, it means you can enter words or numbers and even other characters like brackets and things like that. So now coming back to this ID, and you'll see next to it there is this key like symbol, which is this primary key type symbol, and this guy is designated as a primary key. So in Access likes it if in each and every table you would have a designated primary key. Now what does a primary key mean? A primary key means something that defines that record in a unique way. So if you think about this, if you go to a driver's license, what do they give you? They give you a driver's license number because that's the way they track you in their database. You go to a bank, they give you a bank account number. So any place you go nowadays, there is database everywhere. So we are surrounded by database anywhere we go. So the primary key is something that defines what goes in there. Now if I wanted, instead of auto number, I can choose to have it number because I want to control it. If you choose auto number, you do not control the numbering system. Access will keep on putting 1, 2, 3, 4 for you, which is fine in this case because I don't want to concern myself. Now if you wanted to put a combination of words and number, then you'll have to choose short text. Okay, but I can just change this and I can call it contact ID. And if you wanted, if this was like an employee list, I can call it employee ID. So you see, when you start working, the first thing you get at work is an employee ID. Now if you see, I'm typing first name and last first name together, just putting capital N and capital F. This is just a convention. You can put a space if you want. Some places you'll see they put small case F and then a capital N is known as camel case. So that's just the way people type, but I'm in the habit of typing it like that so that it's easy to read. Okay, so I'll just come back to Datasheet View, say yes to saving it, and now I can type something in there. Now if I come to the new line and I type something else, now the contact ID automatically changes to 2. Come back to Design View. Now if you ever wanted to change it, right now I can change it to primary key to first name. But you want to do this right at the get-go and be sure what it should be, because now I can, if I choose first name as my primary key, I can never type Amir or John again because Access is expecting that the first names will be unique. So that's why creating an ID field is great, because you can keep track of it here. Okay. So that's the basic idea. You type a field name and then you choose a data type, and there are different types of data types. So let's look at a few of them. So here I wanted to get this person telephone number, so I'll just type tel number. Now once I type a tel number, if I want it, I can put a caption here on the bottom. So I don't want to use the whole word telephone number here, but up here I can put a caption and I can type telephone number. I can even put a dot number, telephone, TEL dot number. I cannot put a dot or a slash around here because that's not allowed. Now you'll be thinking that the data type for telephone number should be number. But the problem is, if you choose number, you will not be able to put brackets around your area code. So in North America, the format we use here is the first 3 digits are the area code. So the area codes are in a bracket. Because I want to do that, I will choose short text. So I'll just come to the front end. Now up here, if I type, I can type that, but if I want to put the bracket, I'll try to force the bracket around it. Okay, I can edit it. Okay, but I don't want to do that. I want Access to do this automatically. So I'm going to come to the Design View, and while I'm in the telephone number, I'm going to click in the Input Mask. You see on the bottom there is an option called Input Mask and this Field Properties. So every field has these field properties associated with it. So you have to make sure you click on the row that you want to change. Now you click in the Input Mask. And you can look on the right hand side and it will provide you with an explanation of what input mask is, or if you wanted to know more, you can go into the help section. So input mask means wherever you have a certain pattern, you can choose input mask. So for example, telephone numbers have a similar pattern. Dates have a similar pattern. The dates might be different, telephone numbers might be different, but they share a common pattern. So say in the US they have social security number that has a certain pattern. So I'm going to start the wizard by using the dots at the end. If it asks me to save it, I'll say yes to it. If not, it will just open up in the window. Now I need to choose the phone number. So you see it looks like the area code and then the number is showing up. You can even hit next and you can even try it. If not, you can just hit finish. And you'll see there is some list in here for different types of input mask. And I'll click finish. And it puts something there. We'll look at later what that means. I'll come to the front end. I'll say yes to saving it. Now when I come to the telephone number, I just hit 416-123-4567. And it puts it for me. I can put anything. So that's what input mask allows you to do. Come back to design view and say I wanted to get these people, my friends and contact date of birth. So I can type DOB. Now date of birth data type should be something to do with date and time. So I can choose that. So now I can collect people's date of birth. And if I come to the Datasheet view, now I can click in the date of birth and I'll get this date picker. And I can go across and pick something. So here I'm like kind of guessing, right? Because I don't know whether to have, if I wanted to type it manually, whether to type the month first or the date first. So this gives me an idea that I should put the month first and then the date and then the year. So now if I wanted to type, say, January 1st, 1988, I'll put 1/1/1988 because I'm following the pattern on the top. Let's hit tab. Tab means let's move on. So now it accepts it. But if I wanted to make sure that I want to type it in a certain way, then I'll come to the design view. And in the date and time, while I'm in that row, look in the bottom for the field properties and input mask. Input mask in a way means also how do you want to enter your date. So I'll start the wizard. Now how do you want to enter it? So you can choose to enter it short. I'll say, you know what, let's enter it medium. And I can click finish. So now if I come over to the datasheet view, say yes to saving it. Now if I just come here, tab it, and if I put, say I wanted to put 2nd February 1990, so 02 FEB 190 because it only wants that. Now you see the date is all still visible as short date. So if I wanted to change this, I come back to the design view, and in the format that allows me to change how I see the date. I'll change it to, if I wanted long date, let's see what it looks like. That symbol means that the information doesn't fit, so you look for that symbol, left click and hold it and drag it. And I may need to do it a little bit more. And there it is. So I can even see what day May 16th was 2012. So I can see that. Come back to design view, and if I wanted to see it a different way, I can choose, say, medium date. Just be careful you choose the date option, not the time, because then you will not see the date, you will only see the time. And I can come to the front end, and there it is. So that's the way you can set your date in there. And you don't have to, you don't need to do it, it's just a good option if you wanted to control over it. Besides date of birth, if I wanted, say I wanted to collect which country they are in. So I can type that, short text. Now, if I thought that a lot of my friends will be in Canada, I can put a default value as Canada. What's the meaning of default value? All the new records should have this automatically. So let's see what it looks like. So I come to the front end. So only the new records will have it, not the old one. That's the possibility. Now if I felt like, you know what, I'm typing some types of countries a lot, US, Canada, a couple of different ones. So the default value is fine, but when I'm trying to type the other countries, I don't want to type. I want to pick it from a list. So you can do that in Access. You click here in the drop down button for the data type and you start the Lookup Wizard. And in the Lookup Wizard, I can say I will type the values that I want and I click Next. And here I can type my values. So say I want, if I want, I can put USA. I'm originally from India. Say New Zealand. Anything else that I wanted, I can keep typing here. And I can click Next and then finish it. So when I did that, I lost my default value, which I'll show it to you again how to add it back. And I'll come back to the thing, and there is my drop down button. And if you wanted to modify it, I can come back to the design view. Now instead of starting the Lookup Wizard again, just look in the bottom in the full properties, you have the lookup option. I click in the third row and then I can choose this dots at the end. And here if I want, I can add Canada and I can just make this default value. And I click OK. Let's come to the front end. And let's see, there it is. I don't know why the default value is not coming up. Something must be off, but usually it should. Come back to the design view. Now remember to come back to the general, otherwise you will not see. You will only see the lookup. Now another thing you can do in the lookup is you can set it so that people cannot type anything besides what's in that list. So you see there is the limit to list option. I can make it yes. That means people cannot type another country beside what's in the list. So that's an option you can use. Just to show you, I'm just going to add another one. Say I wanted to add a category of something like say city, for example. So I'll start the drop down button Lookup Wizard. I will type the values. I'll click Next. And here I'll type some cities. So say Toronto, Atlanta, New York, Barrie, which is one of the cities here. And I'll click Next. Now I can limit it from here. And if you wanted, you could actually choose allow multiple values. That means people will be able to choose more than one choices. So I can click Finish. Let's see what this looks like. I'll come to the front end. And when I click in the city box, make sure you click here, not on the top, because that's where the information goes. I'll click here and you see there it is. I can choose multiple. Now if I try to type something, let's see if it works. ABC. You see it's making a noise. It won't let me type because I've limited the list. So if I wanted to change that, come back to the design view, go to the lookup and change that limit to list back to no. Okay. And also there's the option called allow multiple values. It says yes, and if you want you can make it no if you do not want to allow multiple values. So if I come back to design view, say yes to saving it. Now I should be able to type something that is not on the list. I'm not sure why I'm not able to type it even though I've said that. So the easier way to fix this would be to start the Lookup Wizard again, and then I will type the values I want and I'll type my list again. I'm not sure why that could be happening. That could be a bug in the system that they might be fixing in the coming updates. Next, I won't do limit to list and I don't want to allow multiple values, and I'll click Finish. Now let's see if this works. I can save it. And that's good, this problem's happening. So the only other way I know to fix it will be to delete this row and then just redo this row. And I'll do the same thing. Lookup Wizard. I will type the values, next, and just type up the list again. Next, and then just finish it. Come to the front end. and there it is. I can type something else. So that's good. Alright, so come back to the design view. Now if you ever felt like you missed a row, you wanted to add some rows, so you just click there and you can add a row above it. So if I wanted, I could click here, add a row for middle name, if I wanted to do that. And if I wanted, I'll just finish up some more of the data types. If I wanted to add their picture, then I need to choose the data type either OLE object or make it attachment. So any files or something like that. Attachment is a better version of OLE object, so I can choose that. And I can just switch over to general and I can put a caption there. And to add it, you can just double click to add the picture. So I can put the caption there. I'll come to the front end. And now if I double click here, and I can add a picture. And the picture is added. And I can add even more. So now it says there is one picture associated with that record. And just one more. The other option is one called long text. So say I wanted to leave some notes. I can change the data type to long text because by default short text only has a field size of 255 maximum characters. So if I wanted to write a whole lot, I'll have to change it to long text. So I can write as much as I want, and you'll find that each field for first name has 255. So if you wanted to reduce the space, because you don't ever need 255 characters in a first name, so I can change it to 25 characters or 30 characters to be on the safe side. So you can do that with everything because the computer has to keep those spaces empty. So that this way I can just reduce it to what I want it to be. So if you come to the front end now, I should be able to enter as much of notes I want in the notes section. Now one of the new features they've added in 2010 onwards, and also in 2013 it's available, is that I can add a field from here. And not just add a field, I can actually choose what kind of a field this will be. Short text. I could make it hyperlink if I wanted to make a field for email address or website attachments, so those are there. Now if I wanted, I could actually put a calculated field. A calculated field is something where I want to do calculations. So if say this in this table, I was doing something to do with selling products. So I had quantity and I had price. I can actually create a total field which will do the multiplication and put it in here. In the previous versions, up to 2007, you had to do it through query. Now in 2010, 2013, you can do it straight in the table. So I'll show you a simple one. We'll look at some more later. So calculated field, say I want to do a text calculated field. And what I want to do is I want to add the first name and last name together. So I want to join the first name, last name together. So I choose text. And this is where I type my expressions. And if you ever wanted to know more, you can click into the functions and you can go through these built-in functions of all kinds. And you can click on the link here on the bottom to read more about it. So in this case, I'm just going to start typing first, and you see the name shows up on the bottom. I'll double click it and put an and symbol, and then I type last. Double click it and I click OK. So it's just putting an and, so it's ending. And is to join words. So I click OK, and you see it joined it together. Now if I wanted to put a space, I'll have to right click and I'll have to click modify expressions, and after the end I'll put a quotation and I'll put a space, I'll put a quotation and I'll put a and symbol again, and I'll click OK. And now you see it's got the space between John and Doe and my name. If I wanted to delete this, I can right click and I can delete this field. And I can do the same thing by coming to the design view, and here I can just say full name and I can start a calculated field, and I can do the same thing. First name, and symbol, quotation, space, quotation, and symbol, last name, and I click OK. So if I come to the front end, it should automatically fill in there. So if I type something here, You see, the full name automatically fills up. So that's the benefit of using calculated field, and we'll look at some more little later in the next videos. If I hit the X in the corner here, it will close the table, but it is still sitting here. Now it didn't ask me to save because everything in Access is being saved as we are typing it. And if I wanted, I could right click, I can rename it, I can delete it, I can even export it to Excel or within a Word file. If I wanted to create new tables, I go to create, and I can go through table design directly if I wanted to do that, and then just go on through the steps of typing all my fields, making things primary key, and saving it. And we'll talk about a lot of these things in the next video. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we'll talk more about filtering and sorting and some extra features of calculated field, and also deleting records and things like that. Thanks for watching.